Aloha everybody, welcome to the Hawaiiverse podcast, a podcast that supports local by getting our local news from me in Hawaii and Hungry Hawaiian. I'm your host Kamaka Diaz, and I'm happy that you're here because I have some awesome news for you. I hope you like the sun and the ocean because this week's local business giveaway is being brought to you by CM Board Sports Hawaii, located on the north shore of Oahu. They are giving away 2 free hours to you and up to 4 friends to paddleboard or kayak. Head to Hawaiiverse on Instagram and check it out. Okay, let's introduce our guest. Our guest today comes from the island of Oahu. He is a journalist, father of 3, a high school wrestling state champion, and a former news anchor for KITV4. Today, you can find him going door to door campaigning for a seat on the Senate whenever he isn't teaching the youth on the side as a substitute teacher. He is a country boy with integrity and a strong work ethic. His name is Brenton Awa. Aloha, Brenton. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Hey, aloha. You build me up. Now I'm nervous for this. I don't get nervous.
Oh, well, no, it's casual. Just some country boys talking stories on
it's
the podcast.
All good. It's all good.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, I love what you've been doing and how involved you've been in the community. I love that you've been going door to door, just talking with all kind of random people, getting your name out there.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
different. It's different. You know, in the news, you talk to a camera. You talk to people, right? You talk to people, but it's at the government level.
Yeah.
Getting out there and seeing the difference, how people are thinking, being actually reminded, how we all thought growing up. It's so fulfilling to do.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It's kind of crazy to see you with a beard because for I don't know how many years you're just clean shaven. And do you have to, or are you not allowed to have a beard when you're working in the news?
I was always told shave, right?
Oh, okay.
Shave. It looks better, taken seriously. But then again, you see a lot of people that a lot of anchors these days with facial hair and they got the beard. So I don't know. I think it's personal opinion depending on who your boss is on how they're trying to influence you on that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wanted to and I would try. What was it? No Shave November time I did and I liked that. But yeah, they didn't like that.
Yeah, but you grow a really good beard.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
Okay,
I wouldn't consider that good. It's pretty patchy, but
Well, more than me. That would take me maybe 23 years to grow. It's funny because I feel like I think as you grew your beard, your voice even got lower. You look like a man. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh man, one day I'll have a beard like that.
You know what it was, and I don't want to talk your ear off, but it was really a transition right out of the news. Not so much out of telling the news because I still could tell stories. I have the ability, and that's what I started doing right in the early on time. But for me, the transition was you're not getting up every day to go in to do a job because you have to because you're making money off of it, right? It became I woke up and it was like I have these abilities. I'm not going to get paid for this, but there's an injustice happening in our community, X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go expose it before it's too late.
Yeah.
Right. And so the transition when you're getting back to like the deepening of the voice and whatnot, it was just I'm totally myself. Right. Now I'm totally myself. And for the first time, that's why I feel so fulfilled inside because I'm able to talk to people ground level. I know what they're thinking. I know what they feel inside, and I'm able to show that.
That's awesome. So
without rules.
You don't have to put up this front and be like all happy, like, hello everybody, welcome to the news. And blah, blah, blah.
Even in the
it's
news, some people will do that, but I had good mentors, and I was told that people will see right through that. So from very early on in my career, I was, just be you. The hard part is, when you first, I'm sure you did it yourself. When you pick up a camera, you record yourself, you play it back, and you're like, oh, that's what I sound like. That's what I look like.
Yeah.
Right. So in the beginning, no matter how good you are as far as a journalist, picking up the camera shows you in a little different way. So there's tweaks, right? And so you learn that, and you learn how to tweak and how to like musicians learn how to sing. You don't just open your mouth and sing, right? Yeah. They know what they're doing. Same thing, you lay down a track, a sentence. There's certain ways that you can follow to do it and own it and have it speak or write and read the way you speak. And along when people are trying to do that, people in the news, when they're trying to find their voice, I call it, they go through the roller coaster.
Yeah.
And when I started, my voice, I don't want to hear it back. It was really high. It was because I was tense. I was just a go-getter, right? And as I became more relaxed and more knowledgeable, that's it's where I am now. So
That's cool. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, especially when you're the first time you're starting off with anything, even in the entrepreneurial world, you know?
Yeah.
You're just trying to find your voice, trying to find your footing and not mess up in front of everybody. But, you know, it's okay to mess up because that's how you learn.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you don't keep messing up. Right?
Exactly.
So I tell the kids like, hey, when I got into the news, that was actually it was a really good. I had good bosses, right? And so when I got into the news, my first gig was a 7-month internship at KGMB when they still existed. And the boss there, he told me, you can make mistakes, but if you make it twice, you're out. And I liked that because if you make the mistake and you don't learn, then you're just failing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But if you learn and you can come out even better the next time and not, then that's progress. That's life, right? So
I believe that. That's awesome. So before we get into more things, I just want to know where you from, where you grad, what was it like?
Yeah, sorry, we skipped over all that.
No worries. Yeah, we'll get it. Just growing up in Hawaii, we always gotta start at the beginning, at the roots, and especially know where you grad.
Oh, Kahuku, everybody knows that. I've been repping Kahuku ever since I got out.
I wore my red today,
Thank
Red
you.
Raiders.
Appreciate it.
I got a couple uncles from Kahuku, so
Right
I gotta make them proud.
Yeah, no, and that I was blessed to go to that school at that time. Just it's different out there. The values, the kids, even till today. I was just talking to somebody about it. Like they're really respectful. I go in the classrooms, and it could be just because of me and what I've done in my career. And how the kids look at me, like that part of it. But they're real respectful. They're
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and they're real passionate. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you grew up you were born in Ka'ava.
Born in Ka'ava. I stayed in Ka'ava till I was in the 3rd grade. We lived on a farm. And then we moved to my grandma's house on my dad's side. My dad's side is all from Kahalu'u.
Okay.
So that's where I spent the rest of my younger years. Where I live today, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Not with them, but right down there.
Yeah, over there. Well, thanks for making the drive out. I know it's pretty far.
Yeah, no, hey, I don't get to town. Honestly, like I was thinking, when was the last time I went to town? Couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But nah, it's good
That's
to be
how I
here.
feel when I go to that side. It's like, oh, when's the last time I went out to, Ka'ava, Kahalu'u, like all these places. So it's nice to get out on that side. I surfed Kualoa Ranch a couple weeks ago.
Tell me about it.
And then I went over to like Pasa'ula and Kauku to go to the North Shore to visit my friend, and so beautiful over there.
Yeah, when you're out there at Kualoa and you're looking back at the valley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
For me, it was, my mom didn't even understand it, right? Like, because after we moved out of Ka'ava, she's like, why do you always want to go back? Like, I would want to find places to rent. That was a challenge too, but I've lived in several places out there. But it was always for me passing Waiholepoi factory. Once you did that, it was like the stress is gone.
Yeah.
You come to the town, it's like, the buildings is moving.
Concrete jungle.
Once you get past Waiholepoi factory, it opens up. You can see Chinaman Hat. Yeah, that's when to me it was like, vacation. Like, lucky we live Hawaii.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like you get vacation every day if you choose to see it, right?
Definitely. So what did you do growing up? I know you were a wrestler.
Yeah.
Did you do any other sports? Did you surf?
Yeah,
Did ride dirt bike? I don't know.
I've dabbled into all those things, football, basketball. I never really got into baseball, wrestling. But for me, I had a dad, honestly, like I have an uncle who put all his kids into sports and all they did was sports and they became successful. But my dad, he wasn't into sports. My dad was, hey, you better have money to buy bread for the house. So it was like, my dad always wanted us to work. So a lot of the time.
That's where you get your work ethic.
Yeah. So my younger years, I was working a lot, like on the farm.
What kind of jobs?
In middle school, one summer I spent the whole summer, Saturdays and Sundays, picking papaya, doing everything papaya farm, Kahalu.
Oh, shout out to the song "Sweet Lady of Waihole," picking a papaya.
It's
true, I guess.
I was climbing trees and using the thing, catching papayas and whatnot.
Wow.
There was that. One summer, high school, we worked the shrimp farm out in Kahuku. It's no longer there. It was the indoor shrimp farms. And that was its own thing. That was early mornings, 5 a.m., harvesting in the cold water. You got to jump in.
How old were you at that time?
So this must have been like 10th grade.
Oh, wow. So you'd have to do that before you went to school?
No, summer. I'm talking about summer kind jobs. School time, it was either we're practicing, whether it's football or wrestling or basketball or something, or we're working, right? My dad always had jobs. There's no shortage of jobs.
That's funny. And did you have siblings?
Yeah, two brothers. My sister came later, so she
Okay.
missed out on a lot of the hard work. She got a little bit babied, but
That's how I feel about my younger siblings. It's like, oh, you guys never had to do what we had to do.
yeah,
You know, mow the
no,
lawn, all
we
that
painted
stuff.
our house
Yeah.
every summer. That was one of our jobs that we had to do as kids under our dads. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
it was work, man. It was that's where I get it from, right? It was like from a kid, it was you work hard and sacrifice. Wrestling, that amplified it to the highest level it can get, and then the competition aspect of it. So
Yeah.
I was blessed. I was blessed to be able to be trained to work hard and then find wrestling, which teaches you how to do it right.
Yeah, and teaches you perseverance, resiliency, and then it gives you that competitive edge, right? I mean, if you're gonna compete at the highest level, you have to be a little bit competitive, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
You
take
gotta
out
be
the other guy,
competitive. You gotta be more competitive than everybody else.
yeah, and especially with a sport where it's one-on-one. It's
Yeah.
not like a team sport. You have to. It's either me or you. You're going down or I'm going down.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So did you want to wrestle in college? What did you do after?
I did.
Oh, you did wrestle.
Yeah, I went.
Okay.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I tell you honestly right here, and I don't make this public. I tell the kids in school and whatnot, so they can relate to them. But I wanted to be a WWE wrestler.
No way.
It was WWF back at the time.
I used to watch that growing up.
Like MMA, UFC wasn't the thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When I was growing up, anyway. It was starting, but it wasn't what it is today. It was WWF. That was what everybody was watching, and
The action figures, all of that. I remember.
Yep. And so my goal was to do that. And after high school, I knew, you know what, I'm 152 soaking wet. Like I'm probably not gonna get there, no matter how much I'm lifting. You know. But anyway, I still loved wrestling. The setting the goal of being from a young age, from elementary school, I wanted to be WWF wrestler. Setting that goal and then getting into wrestling. I stumbled into wrestling, right, because of my friends. And then I went to college to continue to do it. And although I knew I wasn't going to be a WWF wrestler, I knew, I love wrestling now. This kind of wrestling, right? And so I continued that in college. And it wasn't until my senior year where the light bulb went off and it was like, hey, now what are you going to do, right? You're gonna go fight? You're going to go coach? Or, what are you going to do? And so my college had a broadcast news station, and they had been looking for a sports guy. They covered a lot of the wrestling team, and so naturally I could do it, and so that's how I got in. I just kind of fall into everything, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, what I always tell the kids is you aim high, right? The goal is WWF wrestler. I never made it, never got big enough, but ended up still on TV. Not to be like out there as a show, but now I fell back into TV, and I fell in there as a journalist, which now I can do something much bigger than trying to grow myself as a professional wrestler. I can tell stories about our communities.
Yeah. Did you always have that background in telling stories, writing, journalism, or
I never watched the news. I never watched the news
Really?
growing up. Yeah. I never watched the news growing up. I remember there was one time. So I had a good high school coach, named Reggie Torres. He's up at Kamima Scores right now. But he put us in all kind of after school programs, and I don't know how he did that at the time. I was too young. I didn't understand that aspect of it, but I knew that we were in this program, and in this one program, not to make a really long story, aside from teaching us about diet and stuff, we'd have to do some writing things, and wrestlers, but I remember one moment I wrote something, and one of my wrestling teammates commented, because he had written something off Joe Moore. He was acting like Joe Moore.
GOAT.
Yeah, and this is back when I was in high school. But he looked over and he said something to this, that's good writing, right? Like news writing. And so I never watched it, but I guess I had it in there. Just
It's innate.
Yeah, it just unlocked when I came out, right? When I found it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So you finished college. You had was it an internship with the
KGMB, yeah, that's how I got in. I was coaching.
And that was after you graduated college.
I graduated, I came out, reached out to all the stations, and at the time, what was it at the time? 2008, they were going through a recession. So it was tough. But I was sub-teaching at Kahuku, coaching wrestling at the time, and got a call before practice one day. Hey, you want to come in? This is how naive I was at the time. They called one of the bosses over there called at KGMB, and they were like, "Do you want to come? We don't have a job, but do you want to come for an internship?" And I'm like, "What is an internship? What is an internship?" And so, you know, well, I had all this raw skill, kind of like Kahuku kids today. You know, they got a lot of raw skill down there. From what I see,
just kind of gotta mold it, right?
Yeah, if they're given, if they're shown the way to do something right or to get to their end goal, they can do it. It's just like me, you know. I didn't know what an internship was. I ended up telling the news at the highest level, like in Hawaii, you know. And I didn't go from A to Z. You know, there was a lot of steps in between to get me more knowledgeable. You know, as knowledgeable as I needed to be to get there. So a lot of things had to happen, which I was just blessed that they happened in my life. Yeah, so hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
so.
were you always confident? Did you have this confidence growing up? Because I feel like to go from that to something like the news, journalism, you know, you have to be okay with talking to people and, you know, being in front of people. So did you always have that confidence growing up?
People, if you ask others from high school, they know they wouldn't think in a million years. I was a team captain on Kuku's wrestling team, so, you know, I have that confidence. But I was quiet. I never talked. Matter of fact, till today, like, you're introducing me, right? And Kahuku, I did a function over there the other night. They're introducing me. Every time somebody introduces me, like, I don't know what it is.
It's a little awkward.
Yeah, it's awkward still, you know? I've been on TV, I've been all over the place, but when people are introducing, yeah, it does seem awkward still. So I know that, you know, getting into this, well, I do it very well. You know, I ended up writing, like, when I left there, and I still have the ability. My ability's gotten better, but yeah, I'm just lucky. Like, and from what I learned in wrestling and from training over and over is, like, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Somebody said that, right? Like,
that's what it seems, but they don't see the hard work. That's why they only see the result, which is why they say it's luck.
Yeah. Yeah, but it seems, you know, you catch the breaks, right? Like,
I mean, sometimes you
sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Sometimes there's blind luck, and then sometimes there's luck
it's
that
more like
you prepared for.
Yeah, it's exactly. So anyway, I don't know what the question there was, but yeah, like I said, hey, if I get on tangents, I can talk. I'm part Portuguese. Even though growing up, that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Growing up, people would tell you, not this guy. This guy's not going to make it. This guy's not going to be the news guy.
Yeah. Well, here you are, laughing at them now.
No, I don't even laugh at them, you know, because they're my friends, yeah? Like, it's just...
It's more like, oh, can't believe you're here.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just, you know, I'm doing my thing every day, you know, every day. It's like there's work to be done. And so that's what my focus is. Every day is nothing in the past, you know. It's now and moving forward.
Awesome. So you got into the news, and then how did you work your way up to being an anchor?
From the bottom. For, like I said, internship, 7 months unpaid. The thing was illegal at the time.
Really?
Yeah, KGMB had ended, and it became Hawaii News Now down the road over here. But I was one of the first new hires. So after my internship at KGMB, I just kept showing up. That's what happened. Take it back a little bit to the internship. I was learning everything, right? I was brand new. I knew the college stuff, and, you know, I had that kind of experience. First crack it on air in college. Lucky it was in college because I was awful, real bad. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. I know this. But you just gotta have the willpower, you know, and the drive, the willingness to sacrifice. That's what I tell people if they really want to do this. But for me, sorry, where was we again?
So you had the internship. How did you end up becoming a news anchor?
So the internship, from there, I was one of the first 2 hires at Hawaii News Now when they merged with KGMB KHNL. I was the AP, associate producer, lowest you can be. I think I was making $12 an hour, and the way I got the job was...
That's more than minimum wage right now. That's pretty good.
Yeah, back then, I guess, yeah.
It's not too bad.
But the news director had told me, because I just kept showing up, right? The internship's done after a couple months. No, maybe keep showing up, right? And I ended up, you know, getting to know everybody, the cameramen specifically. Camera stuff to me is like playing video games. So it was very natural. So I learned that, and I integrated myself with the station, with their operation, as, you know, shooting and doing everything, right? and like the MacGyver. And so when I get hired at Hawaii News now, they told me, look, you can't keep showing up. Like, it's illegal. It's been illegal.
Like, oh, we gotta call. Oh, Brenton's back in the studio, guys. Somebody's gotta kick him out.
No, it wasn't like that. But the news director, but he's like, so we gotta pay you. We're gonna pay you $12 an hour. I was like, I'll take it.
Awesome.
And from there, it was like, again, where can I, fill a void? Where can I be a part of, contributing to the whole? Because I'm not Keahi Tucker. Like I'm some greenie off the street, and so I just took it and I just worked hard, the same thing, and just worked hard. I got a lot of benefits along the way as far as breaks, learning certain things. Teachers appeared, right? Photographers who took me under their wing, showed me how to do it right, how to really tell stories without even words. And so yeah, I've done every job pretty much from bottom to top. And that's why when I got to that's why, man, God put me in this great position. I wouldn't have wanted to do it any other way. Coming out of college, if you ask me, yeah, everybody comes in, oh, I want to be the anchor, I want to be the reporter, I want to be on TV,
dog, right?
That's what everybody says, but more people got to learn, and I had to learn too, and it took me a long time to learn that it ain't about you. Your job is not to be on TV and talk about yourself or talk about your opinions or anything like that. Your job is to tell the facts, and tell the stories that people need to hear, right? So they can make their own opinions and be a little educated about what's happening around them. And so I think that a lot of people miss that part of it. And like I said, when I came out of college, I would have told you that I could anchor, I could do it, but I'm glad that I had to go through the whole process, that long sacrifice, because when I finally got to the top, then aside from everything else, I knew I know it takes 20 minutes to 40 minutes to edit this story. I know how long it takes to write this. You should be able to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so without going through that, it just made me better as far as hands-on.
I think that's definitely important, and it gives you more empathy towards other people too, because you've been in their position and you know what it was like at the bottom, and now you know what it's like at the top. So you can relate to everybody in every position, give back your knowledge, and be like, hey, just keep working. Eventually you'll get there. And that's a good life lesson for any aspect of life. Just keep working, just keep grinding, and eventually it'll pay off. Yeah,
if not, and for some people it doesn't, sadly, in their lifetime, but you know what? Their kid's lifetime it might, right? Somebody it will.
It's like planting a seed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And if at the end of the day you don't get what you wanted, you still gained a lot of experience.
Yep.
And that's how you say, video cameras were like video games. I see life as like a video game too, where it's like Pokemon, where you're just gaining experience every time you go. You're just leveling up. Just even if you fight somebody, you lose, you still gain experience. So that's what it really is. You're just throughout life, you're just accumulating these experiences, these memories, all of that, and it's making you the person you are today.
Yeah, more knowledgeable.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, well, we got to get into your time in the news towards the end, because I'm sure everybody heard that story. Everybody is curious as to what happened. And when you were talking about giving the facts, that was something that became a conflict for you and your job, right?
Yeah, it was a long time, and there was a lot behind it, and a lot of it I don't want to get into, right? I don't want to like mudsling on anybody or talk negative. My whole thing since I got out has been aloha, right? They got it on bumper stickers and stuff like that, live aloha and whatnot. But really, when you just show aloha and like when you respond, right, or you react with it, you take time. Don't just react right away. You take time. I've noticed that life is so much better. Even if there's anybody negative, when you respond like that and you really feel that way, that negative cannot affect you. It's like aloha armor, right, or something. Yeah. So anyway,
I like that aloha armor.
but yeah, back to the news. So what it was for me, in short, and this is the easiest I explain it to people while I'm talking on the street.
Yeah, and only share what you're comfortable and you're allowed to share.
It's all good. So this is the easiest way to tell people, what I was dealing with. It was happening for a while through the pandemic, and I was bringing up there's a lot of misinformation coming up in my teleprompter. And I did 3 shows a day, right? The noon newscast, the 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., and every cut in between. So I was doing the most work I had ever done in my entire career at the highest level that I could be. And so I was seeing everything. My awareness was real high, but I was seeing a lot of mistakes. And I don't want to get into all the reasons why those errors get there, but there was a lot of unfactual information, you know, story after story after story, and a lot of them get delivered. I was, you know, bringing it over and over, as were others, bringing it up to manager's attention, printing out scripts. Hey, here's what's wrong. Here's what was, you know, printed up. Here's what we said. But for me, I mean, every day I'm showing up, I'm looking at the teleprompter, and what I'm seeing a lot of the times is not what the viewers are hearing, because I'm having to ad-lib it on the fly. And so taking these issues over and over, what I was told, and this is for me what really killed me inside, you know, not my passion, but as far as, you know, this station and myself, was consultants told me when I brought all this up, if I see misinformation on the teleprompter, and the quote is burned in my head, I wrote it down that day, but they said to read it with extra confidence because 90% of people here will believe it.
They actually said that?
They told me that. Yeah.
Wow.
Not only did they tell me that, I had an hour debate, friendly debate with the lady. You know, I wasn't real mad about it because I knew getting mad wouldn't go anywhere at that point. Different with the last day that you know, that led to me, my career ending. But
yeah,
she had told me that, and I debated with her all the reasons why that doesn't work, you know. And after an hour, it was just, well, you know, this is what it is. You got to read it. Well, I took that message to the GM, and he told me that corporate paid for those consultants, and if I'm not doing what they're saying, it's my job. So,
I don't like that.
I mean, I kept showing up, sitting in the seat. I don't know how long more it was later after that, but it was pretty soon after that where it was the last newscast. Stories were wrong, right at the top of the 6 o'clock. Chose not to read one. There was a big argument in the meeting.
Like live on TV, you just didn't. I think I saw.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
clip.
I put that in my story. It's
your campaign.
Yeah, my campaign announcement. I put that in. It's that clip where I looked down and I said, "We're moving on." That was my last show, and yeah, like I said, I don't want to get into all the details about what happened in the meeting. Excuse me. But yeah, that's what led to it.
Wow, that's crazy to hear that. Because a lot of us have our, speculation.
Yeah, people can think of it, right?
The news,
yeah.
Is everything that they're feeding us factual? Is it just like a theater? They're just telling us what we should hear, or not even what they want us to hear, and they kind of change or control the narrative, right? Because
there's a lot of layers behind that. So for me to just come out and say, the news, well, they do control the narrative for sure, right? Depending on what stories they pick. Right? They do have a responsibility. They should be picking, rather than coming in and having the mentality of, oh, we got a 22-minute of airtime to fill, or 43 minutes of airtime for the 6 o'clock. And the attitude is, well, how are we going to fill it? How are we going to fill it? Versus, well, coming in, don't worry about the time. What are the issues today that need to be addressed, right? There's a difference. And so, like I said, there's a lot of reasons why the mentality is the way it is in some places, right? And like I said, it's not bad across the board. There's, if I was in the news and I'm being honest, there's others in the news being honest, right? There's still good people, good journalists here. It's just tough that when corporations have an agenda, what do you think is going to happen, right? It trickles down to everybody under the umbrella. And so, again, there's a lot of reasons why misinformation gets out there, why opinions and biases get out there, why stories are chosen. But yeah, just it's a tough. We live in a tough place right now.
Definitely, and I think during the pandemic, start of 2020, like around March, and where everything kind of came to the forefront, people started to really see how skewed things were. I think there's a quote that I wrote down that I wanted to share. It's the truth is still the truth, even if no one believes it. A lie is still a lie, even if everyone believes it.
Yep.
And that I feel like is the epitome of what the pandemic is. You know, there's so much information coming out on both sides. Misinformation. Yeah, what is factual, what is not. Do your own research, but is your research going to be believed by this side? If it's not on the news, then it's not factual. You know, there's
and it's not just
so
the news,
many layers.
There's propaganda,
social media,
right? You know,
all this propaganda. Yeah, so it's so hard to navigate through all of this. And I think because of the pandemic, even though it's bad and people don't like it, but I think it really woke people up, you know, to really see like maybe we have to look into these things a little bit more and not just take everything at face value.
Yeah, and that was the thing with the news, what the pandemic did, you know, and we'll see how the news evolves because of it. But what it did, at least at the place that I was working at, it exposed the weaknesses. And so while the news was running, and you know, the news is cutthroat, right? Different corporations buy. Before all the pandemic, there was mass layoffs. Like a lot of people got lost their jobs a couple times. I've been through, at that one place, I think I went through 3 news directors. But yeah, and that was in a short time, 8, 9, forget how long it was, years. But it's tough. But what the pandemic did for the news, when it exposed, right, the news, they're chopping. Before, when you had 3 eyes on a story, and now you got one set of eyes. 3 sets, right? Let me correct not 3 eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 3 people reading it versus 1 person reading it, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of cuts that impacted how many people are behind the scenes working to make sure this information is factual. But one thing the pandemic did is now put so much pressure on the news operations and the people there, because now they're like, holy smokes, right? I'm going to write this line, and I better be right, because a lot of people are paying attention, and they're paying attention to the details now, right? It's not like before 5 years ago in the news where, you know, actually there was more standards, but you could almost do a story and nobody would see it, right? Because there's not a lot of interest.
Yeah.
You could argue that depending on different kind of stories and whatnot, but now, like you said, I think a lot more people are paying attention, and so that puts a burden on the news, right, on people there. Like, oh, when they start understanding, wow, the stuff that I write, you know, it can really affect. I was in a car with my friend one day, and they had wrote something, a headline that was so far, and I'm not going to mention who it was, but there was a what is those things called that come on your phone, alerts?
Like the notifications?
Notifications, yeah. Anyway, one came out, push alerts.
Okay.
One came out from a news station to his phone, and he looked at it and he's like, oh, turn this car around. I got to get vaccinated. And I was like, what'd you just read off of a tweet? You know?
Yeah.
And this is early on. So it was just like, it can have that kind of power. But the people behind there, they might not realize, you know, I sent out this, they're just doing their job, right? They're like, oh, I got 20 minutes to do X, Y, and Z. I got to get through this. But they're not realizing sometimes, like, hey, slow down, because what you type can really affect what somebody's doing in their life.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's crazy. And I think when you have people with this recognition saying like these influencers saying one thing, then people are gonna believe it. Another side saying the other thing, people are just gonna believe it, or just be opposed to it just because it's not. Yeah. It's not.
Heck, you could tell the truth straight down the line too, and both sides won't believe it.
Exactly. That's what I always think. I'm like, Republicans, Democrats, you guys are yelling at each other, but you're not going to change anybody's minds. So yeah, I this whole pandemic, this division that it has caused, it's very disheartening. But I think that eventually, we'll get out of this pandemic, and people will start to realize a lot of things that have been happening for a long time. The pandemic was just the catalyst that brought it all to life. So that's very interesting that you say that. Can you give me an example of misinformation?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of stuff, but aside from the blatant, just totally wrong for facts goes, these are the kind of scripts that really bothered me, and so I'll read it here. The line. Okay. This was, we used to do a partnership to raise school tools, school supplies for kids. And this script, it's trying to raise money for exactly that, get supplies. So a good cause. But the script goes out and says, I'm reading off of it here, quote, new supplies and even a new backpack can spark hardship because without them, children can't learn. Here's how you can help. Make a donation to school tools, end quote. And I'll read that again because, as a writer, attention to detail, just like a lawyer, right?
Okay.
Attention to detail. And so the detail here is what is being said is new supplies and even a new backpack can spark hardship because without them, children can't learn. So without school supplies, children can't learn is what it's saying.
And that triggered you.
Yes, I know that's wrong. We had cold water showers at Kahuku. We had lockers that didn't work. They're all rusted out, no locks. Like we didn't have things that you need. We didn't carry around a lot of books. We had what was in class till today. I'm sub-teaching and kids are still using, books where they're ripping pages out of the teacher's old ones that are stuffed in the cabinet because they don't have. And so to say something like that, what that does is it continues to have that island mindset, right? As a kid, you grow up here, and a lot of people are limited because they feel like you cannot accomplish it on the island, right? You cannot get to the highest level. Look at Max Holloway. He went against that grain and proved people wrong with that, right? And this is the opposite. This is trying to hold us down. And so this kind of mentality, maybe it is what it is for the person who's writing it. It's not the reality. The reality is if you have passion and drive, you can be successful without tools, You can do it. We shouldn't be telling people you cannot do it if you don't have the supplies. And worse yet, go make a donation.
Yeah, so it was really just about
pull on your heartstrings and get some money. And granted, I don't think there's anything, I think the money's going right there. It's like I said, it's a good program. But the way that was written, and the way that can change somebody's mindset, if that is the narrative, right? We talk about narratives. And so this is the way the news can control a narrative just by lines like this. And it might seem not like a big knockout blow, but when you keep getting jabbed over and over and over every day with the same thing.
It's psychological.
Yes.
That's crazy. It's almost like psychological warfare. I would have never assumed anything when you said it at first. And then when you kind of explain to him, like, oh, wow, yeah. Like, you can't learn if you don't have tools. And then that makes me think of, you can't get healthy unless you're vaccinated.
Same thing.
It's kind of like the same thing where it's like, there are other options, but because of how the media says it, and it's these little nuances that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
And it kind of just, it almost brainwashes people.
That's what you can do.
Wow.
You can do that, That's why,
crazy.
Like anywhere else, in government, in, any public service job, and the news, they got a responsibility because they have the power to do this, whether they realize it or not. Some people might be young, don't realize it might just be a typo.
They're the ones that write these scripts?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people in the news. How it works is the anchors, for me, I didn't get to look at a lot of my scripts. I'm seeing them for the first time
live.
In the prompter, live.
Oh wow!
And that's just because I'm doing tons of other stuff. I don't have time. And same today. Some anchors, are under that same circumstances. So it's a tough job all around. Everybody's in there. Their jobs are tough, and the pay is going down. Not to mention that. So, yeah.
That's kind of that's crazy. Learning these things, actually hearing these things. I think a lot of people listening to this, I would hope that they feel the same way as me, almost outraged or just,
you shouldn't feel mad. You just be aware of it,
Yeah.
So now when you're getting your information, hey, go check out the bill, right? Because even in news, they can only give you so much anyway. So even if you had them doing it exactly perfect, as a person, you go still find, what they're talking about and go look it up for yourself too. Because you never know. There might be extra stuff that might affect you differently than, what was told on the air. And that could, like I said, if they're doing it right, that's just what it is. But the problem now is so much of it is wrong. It's that, what we were talking about earlier, misinformation.
Yeah, and like you said, there's more blatant ones, but
yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. But mahalo for sharing that. Do you think ever since that whole event happened where you stood up for yourself, your morals, you're like, this is heva, in my na, I can't go through with this. So you stood up and then there was an incident, and then you got fired, and I feel like they try to control the narrative again, where they're like, oh, Brenton's a bad guy, he has anger issues, all these things.
Yeah.
And then you came on social media and you kind of explained the story. And I think when I hear something like that, I want to talk to the person. I don't just hear something and, just believe it right away, right? I think my dad used to tell us that his grandfather used to say, like, believe half of what you see and half of what you hear, and half of what you hear and half of what you see and none of what you hear.
Half of what you see and none of what you hear.
Something like that. I was trying to think about it as I was saying it. Does that make sense?
Dad be calling you up.
Yeah, I gotta call we gotta take another break to call my dad. It's all good.
Just kidding.
No, I don't mind making mistakes live, but something like that. But basically, the what I'm trying to say is, don't always just believe everything at face value. You want to talk to the person and hear their side of the story. There's so many sides of the story, right?
Yeah.
So that's why when you came on it, I didn't automatically just believe you. I read the comments. I tried to just
Well, again,
stuff.
I mean, that's my side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They look at it the way they look at it. Mm-hmm. And, for me, I don't care how they look at it or, or anybody, again, whatever. How you look at it is how you look at it. But for me, like exactly how you said, I know what is wrong, right? I couldn't read. I couldn't show up every day ad-libbing over and over and over, and nobody's trying to. I'm not gonna say nobody. There's good people in there still, fighting to do the same thing I was. But misinformation's coming up, and the powers to be aren't really putting much emphasis on stopping it. And so, if they want to look at me as a bad worker for not following and toting the line, then that's them, But for me, it feels good where I am now because, like I said, after I came out and I was able to do stories on my own without having to worry about, any management or anything like that, it's way more fulfilling. And, it can do I could do more now than I could have ever done in my news career under the corporation.
Yeah, it's not restricted, right?
Yeah.
There's no censorship.
There's no pay, but but
I mean,
you
same here, same
do it.
here. But I love it because we get to talk about real situations and where we're not censored, we're not controlled by anybody. We can say whatever we want here on the podcast, and if people like it, they can listen. If not, then there's a lot of other podcasts. There's a lot of other news stations that people can listen to. So I think that's the beauty of being independently run and having a platform like this where you can say and share your truth with people. So awesome. I respect you for stepping up and staying true to your morals. I think that's very, in my opinion, very Hawaiian of you to stand up for something that isn't right.
Yeah, it was just, to me, it was automatic.
Yeah.
It took a while to happen, and for me to, get the awareness level to,
Yeah, it just kept building up, and then eventually, yeah. So following that, I feel like in a way it was a blessing in disguise, because you got to get out of that toxic environment, and then you also gained a little bit more recognition over social media as well, right? I feel like
and that was what was one of the factors where I was like, well, if a lot of people want me to go tell stories, then I should, right? And there was a point there when I came out of the news, I didn't know what was going to happen or where I was going to go, where I was headed, and I just knew that I had to go somewhere.
It's a kuleana right there.
Just got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can't be idle, right? Because what am I doing being idle? And so it took a while, what they say, right? When the door closes, every other door's open. But I was over there sitting in a hall like, oh man, where's the doors? Where's the doors? And then I was like, forget it, I'll make my own. And so, but going back to the following, that was when something clicked, and it was just like, if people are following me and they're messaging me because they want something that I can offer, hey, let's go do it. And so when I started trying it, and then that's when it was like, oh wow, this can make a difference. People are paying attention, like you said. Did the house story about a hui manu, a developer trying to rezone preservation land and make houses, and a lot of people, reached out about that, and till today are asking, hey, when's that guy supposed to show up? But he hasn't, he hasn't yet. So We'll see if we made a difference.
Well, I love how you went super grassroots, just you and a camera.
That's what it is anyway, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the news, like, honestly...
You don't have a team?
Small team. For instance, I went to Kauai, close to one of my last days, I went to Kauai. I arrived there at 1 o'clock with a cameraman, PM. And we were to anchor the 6 o'clock news in our show. We were also to report at the 5. We turned 3 stories before doing any of that. That's unheard of. You don't do that. Just me and a guy. But that's what it's come to, you know?
Wow.
They don't send multiple crews anymore, one per story. It's, if you can, which we could, you know, we could do it. It pushed us to our limits. That was that was the limit. But it's pretty bare bones in a lot of operations.
Yeah.
That's the part of it too that's bad, because it's like when more people are doing more things, more room for error. Right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. So you started doing things on your own. Doing stories that you wanted to share with the community, right?
Yeah.
And then at what point did you decide, hey, I'm gonna get into politics?
Oh, so as I did the stories, people would, you know, message, people would call, close people, hey, and I didn't see it. I knew it was there. Hey, that's a possible door, right? But it wasn't like it came and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. It took me a while. I kept doing stories. As I kept doing them, and then I realized, you know, housing is so bad, and you hear the same things over and over. Different projects, but affordable housing, right? And regardless of what lawmaker it is, it seems to be the same thing. A project, and we're never catching up. And they can argue that if they want about the numbers, but it doesn't seem that way. When I walk door to door, and you know, plenty of people are telling me their kids left, went Oregon, went Vegas, went Utah, you know. And so the numbers, I don't care what the news is showing with the numbers, people are leaving. And when I started seeing, you know, when you're in the news, you're coming to town every day. When I started not coming to town every day and started staying within my community, you start listening, you start hearing, you start getting a real feel for what's going on at that like grassroots level, right? You know, and while I still didn't know, I knew that I was capable of certain things. I'm capable of continuing to tell stories, you know, as long as I find a way to pay for this, right? And I have a lot of the tools. When I started looking at the campaigning and the district, what I would run for, where I would go, I realized that, wow, you know, all this time I had been practicing every day, showing up and working, you know, thinking that I'm sharpening my sword to be the best journalist for the decades to come, you know, and do that. That'll be my service, you know, tell the facts for the rest of my life for Hawaii. But what it really was, now I look back, even this short time later, it was preparing me for exactly where I am today. Like everything that I have been working on, you know, like we said in the very beginning, hard work from a little kid, right? Picking papayas to wrestling and learning about, you know, how to do it on a high level, you know, attention to detail, preparation, everything just lined up. I cannot make it any simpler. I cannot say it any simpler. Everything for me just lined up. I was already driving across the district, like I said in my video. You know, my daughter goes to school in Waialua. So I'm going from Kahalu to Waialua, you know, twice a week. And I'm seeing the whole district, right? I know the Senate. I know the players. Anyway, so it was like, it took a while. But once I saw all of these things, and then I thought to myself, well, could I do it? I realized I have all the tools. And then the feeling hit where it was, I got to do it. You know, it was like a responsibility.
Yeah, and that's when the sense of kuleana came in, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So were you not intimidated of going into politics? Because you know how us locals, we view politicians, politicians, you know, there's so many bad... We have a bad taste in our mouth for politics here because so much is said and nothing gets done.
Yeah.
There's all these promises and nothing ever gets done. There's all this funding that comes in and where does it go? You know, so were you not worried about that side of it? And like maybe even feeling competent, like Dang, am I even cut out for this?
No, so
Do
what I
have-
see, right, at the end of the day, what are they supposed to do? Represent the people.
Mm-hmm.
Represent
Supposed
the
to
people.
do. Supposed
Yeah, no, and there's good ones too, right? But when it comes to representing the people, and I had all of these things, and I felt like, it's my responsibility here, you know? My goal, even to today, what it is for the campaign, my goal is not to win. I believe we'll win, you know? With the support that we're seeing, I believe we'll win. I believe it'll be a big margin. But my goal is not to win. My goal is to give the community a chance, you know, an opportunity to vote for somebody like them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's the most important thing is representation and, you know, being a local from that place because you're seeing, oh, wow, Brenton can do it, I can do it. Being a young kid seeing that.
That's exactly what it is.
Super inspiring.
It's exactly what it is. There's kids that come up to me. Kids that come up to me in Kuku, never heard it before, you know? How can we get involved?
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, yeah, that's good. If I can light fires in the future generation, like, yeah, that's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
It shouldn't be, I'll tell you, it shouldn't be where I get emotional talking about it, but it shouldn't be where the lawmaker is like worried about the next term, right? Because if you're worried about yourself, then as a journalist, if you're worried about yourself, what kind of story are you putting out, right? If you're worried about yourself, you cannot worry about yourself. Your job is to tell the story. A lawmaker, you cannot worry about yourself. Your job is to represent the people, right? And so,
oh wow, that's a good comparison.
yeah, it's all the same. Like you just gotta find out, and find out what your purpose is, and like don't deviate from it, right? And to me, lawmakers, there should be term limits. Right? I don't want to talk about all kind of issues there now, but
term limits for sure.
Yeah, because it shouldn't be, you know, where am I going to be 10 years from now? Am I going to do this office or that office or what? It should be, hey, what am I doing for the community? And, you know, if I'm going to leave this seat, who's the next man or woman up? And let me help them, right? Because it's this election thing, you can have the best person in the community who wants to would do a good job, but they might not necessarily get in because politics, right? If powers that be in big political committees, PACs don't like you, they can run negative ads against you. It's happened before.
Smear campaigns,
you know? Yeah. And it's like, am I worried? To answer your question, no, not at all. Because whatever happens, what it happens. I put my energy positively every day to give the community a chance, right? That's what it's about. So
anyway. And you're living through aloha, and you know, aloha always wins. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into Instagram questions real quick. We have just a few. Couldn't Take the Mana wants to know, Brenton, what's your first move when you're elected?
One of the first things I want to do, you know, and there's a lot. So in my community, people want actual change to solve problems within the immediate communities of where they live. So Hawai'i, they want the river to be cleared, right? So it doesn't keep flooding and they don't have to pay out of their pocket because the insurance not covering it. All around, from one side to the other, there's issues. And so I want to attack every one of those issues as hard as we can, right? To actually make change. And I'm not the kind of guy who's going to tell you, it's a city issue, that's a federal issue, right? No, it's a us issue. Let's get in there and rip it out. Yeah,
thing.
like you know, too many times it's like, let's wait for the next guy, or let's
that's not my problem.
Yeah,
right?
it's not. But no, as a lawmaker, you know, one thing that some of these people maybe they realize, but they just don't take advantage of, is they have influence, right? They're an elected official with 50,000 people behind them, right? Or how many people voted for them, you know, but they can influence city lawmakers. If you're a state lawmaker, you can influence your federal counterpart, right? Like you can have that just by dialogue. And so this fact that people keep passing the buck, to me, you know, maybe I get in there and I see, okay, that's what it is. But we're gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure that we're gonna come through. The only promise I can make is that when we get in, there's two promises. One, I kind of promise no bills, right? Because I can't control votes. Only can control what we do. So I tell the kids, you can only control what you do. And that's what I do with this campaign. But when we get in, what I can tell people is we're going to show the lawmakers in there what real work ethic is like. Like, it's, to me, I see people in there and it's like, right, you could do more. You know, you could do a lot more. You're doing your job. That's good. Thank you for representing us. But you're not doing enough. Like, it should be your life, right? And anyway, back to what I want to do. Though I'll give people one of the key issues, because a lot of the issues we face stem off of housing. And I don't know why. I hear the same thing over and over. I heard Congressman Kahele say it. No can stop outsiders from buying in Hawaii. And I believe that's a big problem, driving up our housing prices.
Definitely.
And driving us out of Hawaii. And so the state for years, right, decades, our whole lifetime, before us, our parents' lifetime, they've been making money, tourism, off of aloha and all this stuff that, we represent.
Yeah.
But yet we have to leave. It's like...
I know. It's sad.
Yep. So,
anyway.
That's
our reality.
Back to that, like, yeah, we're going to put all our efforts into preventing outsiders from buying. Yeah.
Woo! I love that. I see you getting a little emotional saying that, and I strongly agree with that. When I lived in Madagascar, I was volunteering in the Peace Corps, and I got to hang out with the locals, talk to them, and you find out that if you're not from Madagascar, you can't buy land, or if you're not, you're not married to somebody here, you can't buy land. How come? Even in New Zealand, if you're
they did it. They did it recently.
Yeah, if you're not from New Zealand, you can't buy land. How
constitutionally you cannot?
Yeah.
We live in a state in America, so constitutionally you cannot. But why cannot we tax? Why can't we put efforts into finding out how we can put a tax figure so high that it ain't gonna be worth their while? And for the people that still want to do it, take all of that earnings off the tax and shove it into the people who are trying to buy, local people who are trying to buy, and get them in.
So higher taxes for outsider, lower
Way
taxes
high.
for kama'aina.
Yeah, like a kama'aina rate. Like, what happened to those?
I know, right? Yeah, I would totally vote for you yesterday if that becomes a bill. That's my number one thing too. Is my dream, if I had to pass a bill, or whatever, is that if you're not from me, you can't buy land. I mean, this is our native land. Yep. How are you gonna sell it for us? It makes no sense, but I love that because I love how passionate you are about it.
Yeah, let's take a second there. Take a second there because that one gets me.
Yeah, there's a lot of hurt that comes from that, and just thinking of like how all these people can just come and desecrate our land, try to make this place like their place. It's so heavy.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's something that we're always gonna complain about more than the potholes.
Yeah. But hey, I told your listeners two promises, right? One is the hard work. That's one of the bills that I hope to introduce is to stop, prevent people from outsiders from buying. But also what we can do when we get here, because I'm a journalist, is expose, right? I introduce these bills. I can now follow these bills by telling stories about the bills and show people who's shutting it down, who's against, stopping us, right? And so along the process, we can expose corruption. Yeah.
Love that. I kako'o you. I'm gonna be. Let me know if you need someone to hold some signs, because I want this bill to pass.
Well, it ain't a bill yet, man. We gotta get in the long way.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it takes a while, but that would be a dream. All right, so kind of going off that, somebody sent me this, my friend sent me this. I'm not sure if he wants to be anonymous or not, so I'm just not going to read his profile name. He wants to know what % of budget is from resident taxes, and with the billions of dollars we receive from tourism and our outrageous taxes, why don't we have better facilities, infrastructure, programs for residents? Where does the money go? And I'm not sure if you know the answer to this.
No, so what I'll answer for that is, in the country, we have a lot of problems. And I'll speak country specific. So I'm talking my district, right? From Haikū, Kahalu Kaneohe to Mokulea.
District 23.
Yeah. And for us, people are going to have to deal with cesspool. Exactly what he's talking about. We pay plenty. Well, if I hear this correctly, he's saying we pay plenty of taxes. Where's it going? Right? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not in there right now. You can get the breakdown, if you really wanted to. But for me, in the country and going forward, knowing that you need to generate revenue to pay for issues. One thing that I hope that we can do, and this will be another long shot, but we'll push for it, everything we got. We will push to keep all the revenue that's generated in the country, however we do that, and we have a couple different ways that we're thinking of in the country. And so the money that we generate, can go to helping people, get off the cesspool, which would in turn clean up kahalu'u, the be, kaneohe be. But one of those revenue generating ideas was pitched to me by a friend, and this guy is just a local guy, same age as me, but I started telling more people about this, and people are talking about it actually. And sorry, I did a big build up, but toll road, Kamehameha Highway, Kahalu to Haleiwa, locals don't pay, only outsiders. So tourists, we got so much tourists lining up the roads, traffic is crazy. They pay the toll, we get the money, it stays in the country.
If it was only that simple, Brenton.
I know, but I know it's not. I know it's not. And we're gonna have a lot of walls, when we get in. But at least I can tell people that's what we're going for. Right?
Yeah. Well, I love where your heart is, and if these things actually happened in our lifetime, what a wonderful world that would be.
Something has to happen.
Yeah.
Something has to happen. Otherwise, our lifetime, we're gonna be talking about it from a different state.
Yeah. Well, that hit me. I do not want to live anywhere else but here. And I don't want my kid to grow up anywhere else but here. But with the high cost of living, it's kind of hard, to make that a reality. But yeah, mahalo for answering that last one, and then we'll get back to we'll finish up the Instagram questions. Michele Halelu 33 wants to know, who is the most like-minded conservative candidate we have for governor?
I've only met Heidi, right? And BJ has been super supportive. I haven't talked to him yet.
Boys.
BJ's been super supportive. I haven't talked to him yet, but of course he's a fighter, right? Yeah. So I know, he guaranteed thinks the way I think as far as mentality goes and execution and whatnot, and drive, sacrifice. Look, he wants to. I haven't been watching the news, so I don't know what the news is saying about him. But he's over here and he wants to do it for free. It's the same kind of mentality I got. Of course, I wouldn't be able to do that because then I'd be homeless. Yeah. But if he can do that, great for him. I haven't met him yet. I have met Heidi Suneyoshi, and she's from my district, right?
Okay.
So I know she thinks very much like us as well. She's been able to get jobs done. So, both of those to me, and I haven't met a lot of the candidates. I've been doing my own thing, right? It's teaching, caring for my kids, and doing the campaign when I can, and these kind of things. But yeah, for me, BJ and Heidi, you're asking for governor, right?
Mm-hmm, for governor.
BJ and Heidi would be the
You
ones
think BJ actually has a shot, though?
I don't know. I'm not an analyst. You got to sit down for the analysts, but we'll see. It'd be very interesting to see how many people he brings out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What
I want to see though, man, is a lieutenant governor on the Republican side, a lieutenant governor candidate that can really make some waves and get some attention. Because either one, BJ or Heidi, if they get the nod, they're gonna need somebody strong as the LG. Otherwise, they lose to the Democrats. That's the way I look at it. We saw that happen with Andrea Tupola.
Yeah. She was a great candidate. She came on the podcast and we talked about that. And it's hard because we're in a democratic state, right? Yeah. So the numbers don't always swing towards your way. And yeah, for me, I don't care about the partisan. I just want a good person who wants the best for our people, and like you say, represents our people, does things for our people, not with their own political agenda and all these other things.
And I can see both of them doing that.
That's awesome. That's good to know. I'm gonna keep an eye on them. Awesome. So, how much does culture play a role? Oh, so mahalo for the Instagram questions.
That's great. We're off of that.
Okay. Yeah, we're off of that. Yeah, and we'll start to wrap it up. How much does culture play a role in your life? Like we said, representation is so important, and being a role model for the people out in Kahalu, Kahava, all that Kahuku, all that side. How important is that to you?
It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't got it, then you're just outsider, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have what we have, or trying to learn it, or teach it, then this is not Hawaii. You can call this place anywhere else. Make up a name for this place.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything we do. If people aren't concerned with the culture, like I mentioned, the state, using aloha and making so much money and watching so much of us leave, and that to me is a real pandemic, by the way.
Oof.
You've got a pandemic, and we're talking health and all this millions of dollars.
that the corporations are making off
Yeah,
of it.
and people are but what's happening to the locals? You know,
Businesses shutting down.
Yep.
Displaced.
Yep.
All that stuff. Yeah.
So anyway, we need more people with sense of culture representing us. I know there's a lot of people who don't believe in the government and they want to do it, real grassroots, right?
Yeah,
From the bottom.
That's more the radical side, the extreme side, right?
Yeah, but you got just good-hearted people who are just like, forget the politicians. You know how you said, right? Politicians. So you got people who are just no trust already. So hey, why work for a campaign? Why don't we just go fix the roads ourselves and do what they can in their communities? Go plant trees themselves. So you got a lot of that happening, but what we need aside from that, because it's a kako thing, like you said, it's the whole community, whatever realm you're in, but we do need people that are going to go in, I believe, and are not going to be that, that lawyer mind, and nothing against lawyers. They're smart people, right? They know how to write the bills and get things done, but we need more people that at the end of the day, their votes are going to be based on local people and how is it going to impact the locals every single time, So, yeah, I wish there was more of that.
Same. I'm hoping for that in the future, whether that's, people like you, people in my generation trying to run for office and really make an impactful change and do it with a cultural lens. Because I think that's the biggest issue is like, Governor Ige, he can't relate to us on the Mauna. Do they really care about Hawaiians?
I think there's only so much you can
do.
Yeah, I think there's only so much you can do. You can be around it, but you got to be around it, right?
To really understand and feel the hurt that we feel.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you don't understand. Yeah.
No, hey man, I was up early on. I think it was 2016. I forget 2015, 2016. But I know we're wrapping it up. But I was up on Mauna Kea and not the recent one, but the one where the rally started. The Lions. To block the police started up by the visitor center. And on that day, that was such a spiritual day, like chicken skin, everything, because it was blue in the sky. And that's what I mean, right? Like, unless you're the governor and you're there, you're not going to get it. But the skies were blue. And once the police and all the authorities crossed that first line up by the visitor center and stepped on that gravel road, the clouds rolled in and covered the mountain. Only that part of the mountain, not the visitor center, just that part of the mountain. So yeah, unless you're there and you feel and see that, you might not understand.
That's a mana right there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Cool. So your campaign, your slogan is perseverance, responsibility, and integrity. Right?
Oh, that's just. I mean, I thought of things.
Or is that just on your?
Yeah, on my flyer, on my walk card. I thought of things early on while I'm putting things together, the logo and whatnot. Hey, how can I best get people to know me right away? And so, that's what I put on. And those things are all true.
Yeah, and they're all Hawaiian values as well.
Yeah. But, they're a window. It's not my slogan. I have plenty
So you're still working on the slogan or your official one?
When is this going to air?
This will air maybe 3-4 weeks from now.
Okay, so by the time people hear this, they'll see my slogans out there. They're coming on Friday. So
awesome!
Anyway.
All right, so when you're listening to this, go check it out on Brenton's Instagram or just on Google.
It'll be out there.
Okay, cool. All right, just some rapid fire questions, and then we'll start to wrap it up.
Okay.
I like to ask this to all of my guests. What is one thing you wish people knew about you that they don't? You wish that they knew about you?
No, I think a lot of people are knowing what I'm about. But for the people that don't, if they're listening to this, like I said, I hope now you do know a little bit more about me. When, Lord willing, when we get in, we're going to work harder than anybody else. That is a guarantee. We're going to expose corruption. We're going to try and do everything for the locals and keep them here. Yeah. But that, I hope that message, and there's much more, right? Educate, grow our own food. There's a lot of work to be done, but I hope people will know, like, hey, we're coming. We ain't coming to play. Like, no days off.
The natives are restless.
I haven't been off, man.
Yeah, you've been going nonstop.
My birthday, I was passing out flyers. Like, nobody
Thanksgiving, Christmas, everything, man.
Right? You only got 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
It's the difference.
Okay, going off of that, how do you have time for everything else with your family?
You don't. I mean, my family, like I said, after this thing, we're gonna go out Waialua and ride some ponies.
Okay. So you do have like you do segment off some time in the day.
You got to.
Give.
You got to. At the end of the day, if you don't, then how your children look at you, right? What is the real worth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you usually do with your children? What kind of stuff?
Oh, my kids love going to the beach. My boy loves playing video games. My girl is into everything, crafts. Yeah. But beach is a big one, and they're homebodies too a lot of the time. We've got a nice place. We're renting a nice place out in Kalua, my mom's. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, what is harder, being a father or being a news anchor, reading misinformation?
Nah, the news anchor one for sure.
That was just a joke.
The father one is hard. Like, oh my girl, she got an attitude. But that's just father duties, right? At the end of the day, it's all love. Whereas the news, there's passion and there's love for the craft, but that's a different animal. That's corporate. That's not kids.
Classic. Okay. And this is a new question that somebody gave me this question. They said I should ask this to all of my guests.
Okay.
And I thought this is a great question to ask. What is one life hack?
A life hack?
Yeah.
Fruit, I got one on my slipper right now. A staple to hold it together. Not that one. Nah, there's life hacks. What? I don't know. Off the top of my head.
Off the top of your head, just the person that comes to mind. That we can say, I learned this from.
What is somebody?
Brenton.
What do people say? Let me see if it jogs anything.
This is the first time I'm asking this question.
Oh, okay.
This past weekend, somebody I was talking to me about the podcast, and he was like, "Oh, you should ask this question," and I was like, "Oh, that's actually really interesting. It would be cool to see what everybody says."
Yeah, darn. I'm sure there's a lot, but I wish I could pull one up for you.
Yeah. Maybe I should tell people to think of one ahead of time. Yeah. So that way.
I bet you people would bring some good stuff.
Yeah, okay. That would be my new thing. So
I was immediately trying to tell people, how do I do the dry taco? But that's not really a life hack. That's just a long story.
Yeah. It could be. I'm trying to think what life hack I have. Don't turn 26 so you can stay on your family's medical.
I guess just let your hair grow on your face if you're a man. You don't have to shave.
Money. Yeah, I agree. I had long hair too for 2 years. And I agree, yeah. You never ever have to pay for a haircut when you grow out your hair. I'm thinking of growing it out again, but it's hard to go through that awkward phase again. You ever had long hair?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, long relative, but to this, but.
Yeah. That's a good one, yeah. Grow out your hair, save money. Okay, what are some of your favorite local businesses to support?
So right off the top of my head, where am I going to the most? Waikane store, food, Ching store, Punalu'u food, Koku Superette food. I mean, there's a lot of food places out there I could think of in the country. But yeah, for businesses, it's mostly food places. There's been a lot of people who've just jumped on the campaign. This guy, Kai's Customs over on IG, he dropped 24 hats to me the other week.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, some real nice stuff. Just out of the goodness of his heart, wanted to support.
That's awesome.
My shirts. Rocky, Stephen Orr down at the dock used to play UH football. Just donated them, made them, and yeah, there's been a lot of support.
Yeah, isn't that cool? How when you're in a time of need, to see how much support you can get from the community.
That's what it's been, man.
Yeah,
it's been just. And the timing of it. It's not just the support. There's a lot of support, right? There's always a lot of messages and, hey, we want to be there for Sign Wave, we want to be there for this and this. But throughout my whole journey on this timeline of the campaign so far, and I know it's early on, but every time I've needed something, literally, I need this. And boom, a text will come in. Hey, bro, you need this. I'm like, that is amazing, and I just credit that to hard work, right? The more hard I work, that's why every day I just work hard.
And the more you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
These opportunities come
could be
to you.
that too.
Yeah. That's what people got to realize. Just by putting yourself out there, things and doing it with a great intention.
Yeah, if you have a purpose.
Yeah, things will come to you.
Yeah. When people come with me early on, when people was coming and passing off some flyers, some people would be scared, like, oh, feels weird. Even me, I felt weird, walking down some people's driveways, and then it's like, oh, they're gonna think I'm here to rob them or what, I'm just showing up in short slippers and a t-shirt.
And
right?
you got your beard going on.
But what I have to remind myself is that no, you're here to do a service, and what you're trying to accomplish here is get yourself out to every single person, everybody that you can, the most people you can, because that's how you at the end of this, I'm gonna feel good no matter what. Win or lose, and like I said early on, I believe we should win. But even if we lose, I'll know that I did everything that I could to tell people that they had somebody like them, and if they don't take it, then I did my part, right? And I'll continue to do my own thing. But that's the mentality I have. So that's why, like, I came across somebody once, and I've only had a handful of negative interactions. And by negative, I just mean like they just don't want to hear what I have to say. So one guy told me I could be the second coming of Jesus and he still wouldn't vote for me.
Did he say why?
Just because I'm with the Republican Party, it got him so shaken up, like he had anxiety. And so I just told, hey, bro, I apologize. Don't mean to give you anxiety. Have a nice day, aloha. Yeah. But yeah, it's like I said, it's only been a handful of times, but it didn't affect me at all because it's almost like, again, aloha armor. And I haven't said that term any time before coming on, just right now.
Yeah.
But
you're going to coin it? Patent pending, don't steal it?
It's really been like that, though. It's like when you got a purpose, you got to accomplish it. And
nothing will shake you.
Yeah.
Nothing will stop you.
So this noise, where you're thinking, oh, how are they going to look at me? Hey, bro, it's not about you. It's about your purpose.
Yeah.
So constantly I got to remind myself that when I'm walking, it's a long driveway. Are they going to, is they got dogs? Like, hey, you're on this journey. You better be able to run and jump, So get down there and deliver this flyer.
That's classic.
Because you got a purpose. And at the end of the day, come November, it's like, how are you going to feel regardless of the votes, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to live knowing that you did all you could or not?
Yeah.
And so, we've been doing all we could.
That's so cool. I can relate your story to what I did in 2020. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but I paid off $53,000 of student loans in 1 year.
Oh yeah?
I was that student loan guy who did odd jobs for a year and paid it off.
Right. Good for you,
I think it's on Hawaii News Now and KHY, and I don't think we made it on KATV. But basically what I did was just be in the community and ask people what I could do to help them. And, and then people would just give me these random jobs, and I would just go out and meet random people and then do these things. And it was so cool to see the community.
How long did you do that
support. I started January 6th, 2020, and did December 6th, 2020. So I did it in 11 months, actually.
Okay.
And it was so cool when you talk about purpose, where like I knew in my heart.
You're going out 11 months.
Well, my thing was I gave myself a year. But yeah, for every single day, I was just waking up, doing something. I had my purpose, right? I knew I was going to do it. And if people said I wasn't going to do it, I'm crazy. Like I had that aloha armor where I'm just like, I know in my heart that this is possible. And
good for you.
Because I held that, I had that goal in mind, and I knew what I was doing was bigger than student loans. It was this community coming together to support this local kid and give them jobs and show hard work and all of that. And so that was the biggest thing I took away from that, was how awesome our community is. Yeah. And when you're out in the community, when you're actually in the community doing things for people, that's the most rewarding thing that
people care.
You could ever.
People care.
Yeah. And you don't know that until you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You don't know how helpful people can be unless you ask for help.
And not only that, who you could be inspiring, right? Who's the next kid who might see you doing this and they got student loans too.
Yeah. Hey, or growing out their hair to save money. Yeah, that's why what you're doing, I'm just like, yeah, and that's the best way to do it. To me, is just be out in the community. And I just wish more of our politicians were like that, where they're actually out in the community, because then you get a different feel for everything and you see things from a different set of eyes.
Yeah, you're not stuck in the office.
Yeah. So that's just awesome. And that's why I get, when I see what you're doing, I'm like so stoked. I'm like,
hey, thanks.
This is awesome. And yeah, I support you. I don't want to speak too soon because I don't know the other candidate. I'm not saying I have no idea who it is. They could also be great. But I definitely support you, and I wish you the best. And I really hope that we can work together and make a positive change for Hawaii.
Yeah.
You know, starting from our own districts and then going up.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, this has been awesome. Do you have anything else you want to share?
Nah, just happy to be here. Just happy to be
Yeah.
here and have this talk with you guys.
Yeah, mahalo for coming out. I know you're a busy man. You live far away, but I'm going to let you get out of the concrete jungle and head back to the beautiful
Right on, before
North
traffic.
Shore.
I miss traffic.
Oh, yeah. We got to get you out soon. Okay, guys. All right, so mahalo, Brenton, for joining us on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Check us out on Hawaiiverse.com, the best place to support locals. Spread aloha, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. New episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host, Kamaka, and you'll hear me next time on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Hui ho.